Okay, so now we're moving on to the preview of the Europa League final, and I'm joined by the resident Rangers fan in my life or in Australian YouTube. It's Pom. Now, first, before we get into the preview, how are you feeling? How are you? How are the emotions a week out from the big game?
Super excited. I mean, obviously the league title now officially gone. So we've got the Scottish Cup and we've got this. But I mean, winning in Europe for a club in Scotland is huge. So this is everything we've ever dreamed of. I think I'm super excited, and Frankfurt is probably the favoured draw as well. It's the team that when I think the draws came out, I was looking at Frankfurt and West Ham as the two teams I'd hope you'd get in the final if you could get through to it. So excited. I think we match up well, and hopefully we'll bring it home.
Yeah, so obviously the last time you were in a major European final was 2008. Obviously it didn't end well for Rangers that day. How are the emotions from then compared to now? Is there a difference? Is it similar? What's the go there?
I think it's similar. I think no one gave us Walter Smith's 08 side was a very good side as well. It played very good football. Walter Smith, obviously a legend of the Rangers fan base. Zenit I think Zenit though were a tougher ask. Looking back, I remember going to the game and I remember that there was a lot of young players in the Zenit side. Arshavin, Arsenal legend, as you know, the slayer of Liverpool.
Yes.
He was in that. There was a lot of players in the Zenit side that were like touted for big European moves. So it was always a tough ask. I think this one here is similar nerves, but I think it's one that you'll fancy yourselves. I mean, UK has a history of beating the Germans in neutral soil in Europe, so we should be all right.
There you go. So let's just go back to the start of the season. What was the expectations, maybe not in the league, but in Europe? What were the expectations pre-season about this competition?
Well, I think obviously priority is to try and get into the Champions League, and obviously we ended up in the Europa after going out. So you want to go as deep as you can. I think quarterfinals, maybe as a fan it might change, but for me, like getting into the quarters, I think was priority number one, and then you back yourself after that. I think Rangers you've got to come to Ibrox in these two-legged affairs, and I think Ibrox has an uncanny knack of making good teams find it tough. A lot of the ex-players, Gary Neville talked about Ibrox was one of the toughest games he played at. It's got an atmosphere as well. So I think because you've got them two-legged affairs, you always back yourself. But I think quarters is the minimum expectation. You want to put a good show and you don't want to go out. But as the draw opened up, I think from the quarterfinals, I was saying finals win this thing because every side started losing. Do you know what I mean? And Barcelona, for some reason, looked vulnerable the leg before they went out. And once Barca went out, I think it was anyone's, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I agree, because I saw Barcelona obviously falling into the Europa League. I thought, all right, who's going to beat them? And then obviously the team you are versing Frankfurt did in fact beat them over two legs. But you spoke about the knockout draw and you spoke about the nature of that. What has been your highlight of the knockout draw? What game? I think I'd have a good idea considering the last or the semi-final. But what was the highlight of the knockout draw so far for you?
I think John Lundstrom's goal last week, that got me up and about. I tell you, that got me up and about. And especially it being Lundstrom, who's become like a little bit of a Folktown hero this season for us. He has an uncanny knack of playing that old school 90s Rangers way of being a tough tackling player. And one thing that Lundstrom's done under GVB as well, Bronkhorst, is we're very fluid in our formation, where Steven Gerrard was very rigid, flat back four. It stayed that way all the time. GVB's got a more European approach where we're very fluid in our tactical thing. And last week you saw it big style that Lundstrom came from the midfield and became part of a back three. And he let Barisic and Taverner play more as an attacking wing back. And that, where Lundstrom showing that and getting that goal, I thought he deserved it, because the first leg, I thought we could have lost by more if it wasn't for him. So for him to actually get the winner effectively was a great moment. And the last 5 minutes as well, it was one-way traffic. I don't know if anyone watched it, but Rangers were under the cosh. That last 10 seconds as well, where James Taverner from nowhere lunges in for a tackle, misses everything. And you're like, oh no, and we get it cleared. It was a proper European affair. And now obviously we go to that one leg, one knockout approach in a neutral venue. So exciting times ahead. Hopefully this will be my highlight.
Yeah, well, hopefully for everyone it will be. Now let's go to the final. Let's give it a pretty in-depth preview. So for those who haven't watched Rangers so far this season, I know you spoke about the fluid, like tactical approach to the game. How would you describe the way that your side plays in possession, and what are your avenues for success in every game?
Well, I think that we've probably got one of the top 3 right backs in world football in James Tavernier. I mean, the guy is the leading scorer in Europa, free kick specialist, and mercurial captain, our hero. What you'll notice with Giovanni's side is they're very attacking, they're very direct. We're totally different to the Gerrard Rangers. It's taken a while to break in. I think we're more defensively sound, but I think one thing that's amazing about us is our ability to counter-attack from next to nothing. We're very good at soaking up pressure and hitting them with width and being very direct as well. I did read a stat the other day that we've actually doubled our long ball passes under GVB in the last year over Gerrard, and you do notice that overlap from Tav and Barisic is massive down them flanks. So that's where we look to go. Obviously, we are missing, though, our legend that is Morales out for the season. But genuinely, that is the plan. Get the ball and try and feed him in. So you'll be looking at a lot of overlap. And I think the battle between Taverner and Kostic is going to be the best battle here because they run everything through him. Just so happens to coincide with Tab's flank as well. So should be a great battle, that one.
Yeah. Yeah, you spoke about Morales. I know, obviously, Ines Hadji as well out for the season with a knee injury. Has those injuries, I know that they aren't recent injuries, but have those put a little bit of doubt in your mind, or maybe thinking if we have those 2 players, we'd have more of a chance? Or is it, this is the squad we've got, this is the chance we've got, and let's just go for it?
Not really, no, because I think Scotty Wright, who we brought in, he plays that on the right-hand side. And what you've noticed with him is he's kind of playing the Giannis Hadji type role. And he's become like a real old school number 8, box-to-box midfielder, which allows Tav to overlap. It's allowed Ramsey, when he's played, Rebo as well, to work off him. And he kind of fills that hole. It's very similar to the Gary Neville Beckham type role that you used to see, where Neville did the overlapping and Beckham kind of cut inside and then played the long ball there. So I think it's made us more adaptive. I do think Giannis is probably better at that role, but it's nice to see that role has kind of come out of a necessity, where Giannis is an attacking player himself. Scotty Wright has played that more defensive right wing, cutting inside and allowing Tav to be really expressive, which makes us more dangerous. Obviously, Morales is brilliant, though. Alfredo is head and shoulders the best striker at the club. Kent's done well, though, playing that role, playing a bit more centrally. The legend that is as well, Fashion Sakala, you'll see him at some point in this game. He's done well as well. We do miss him, but I still think we've got enough to hurt these teams.
Yeah. So let's move across to your opponents, Frankfurt. Now, there's obviously, I know a lot of people probably won't know a lot about them because obviously they play in Germany and they're not the Dortmunds or the Bayern Munichs about them, or in Germany rather. Have you seen a lot of Frankfurt's maybe Europa League campaign so far? What are your thoughts on them?
I'm a bit of a nerd. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to opposition. But yeah, I have seen them. I mean, they are a very good side. I mean, you've got Sal there. I mean, people who play FIFA will actually know the Frankfurt side pretty well, because I think every special German card in the game that is overpowered is a Frankfurt player. But Sal is their breaker-up of play. He's kind of like an Audi Vieira, really, for them. He's been brilliant in the Europa, particularly against Barca. He really stopped that tick-attack as Xavi type football. He's a breaker-up of play. I mean, Kostic, we've touched on him. Sensational. I think he will be at a big European club next year. He's a very good footballer. Kamada as well, that Asian sensation up forward. He's got frightening pace. He can score at will. And Kevin Trapp in goal as well. He ain't so bad. But I mean, they've got a lot of pace from this side. They're a strong, pacey side. To beat Barcelona, you've got to be pretty good. So it's interesting because we're similar styles. We're counter-attacking football. So it's going to be really an opportunity for both sides to showcase a bit more front foot football as opposed to being the underdogs. I think this is a fairly evenly matched final. I think both sides will fancy it.
Yeah, and I think the main, what you just touched on, is both team style of play. And we notoriously see some finals be very cagey, be very timid, especially early on, because you're still trying to figure each other out. How do you see this going in terms of maybe the first 10, first 20 minutes? Do you reckon either team will come out of the blocks like on the front foot, high tempo, or do you think it'll be more cagey, timid, just trying to work each other out? How do you think it'll pan out?
I think GVB has put this down as priority number one. I think the title will have been very high up because he's a former Rangers player, but there's always been a part of me since we lost the lead, they got that 6-point gap, that I reckon GVB now is solely focused on this. And I think we'll come out hard. I really do, because I think that the worst thing that's happened for Frankfurt is we lost the title this week. So there's literally now, really, we've got 2 games left. We've got this in the Scottish Cup final 4 days after the game. So for me, I think we'll come out hard. I think we'll look to try and impact them early. But the wonderful thing about our side is that we score late goals. There's a lot of running in this side. But I do think we'll take it to Frankfurt. I don't think Frankfurt will come out as hard as us. I do think the opening 10 minutes, though, I think you'll see Rangers looking to get it to Tav, get it into Barisic and really press them hard and try and get the early one.
Yeah, I think probably the main reason why that start of the game is so important is because of how teams finish the game. Obviously, like you said, with your tie against Leipzig, it was very intense all the way to the final whistle. Whereas Frankfurt, through Aaron Cresswell's petulance here, were able to put the foot off the gas a little bit. Do you think that could play a part? Do you reckon the fact that you had to go all the way to the end, full tempo, playing your heart out, whereas Frankfurt were able to just put the foot off the gas a little bit and really just compose themselves and let the moment sink in? Do you reckon the nature of the 2 semi-finals will play a factor coming into next week?
I think it will do. I think that for us, though, I think Leipzig aren't too dissimilar to Frankfurt in the terms of that they do play traditional German football, kind of like Frankfurt do. So I think for us, we got a good preparation fight. I don't think Frankfurt are as good as them. So I think for us, it was probably a good test because we've had to work for it. I don't think Frankfurt have been really tested, no disrespect to West Ham since the Barca game. I think that they've had quite an easy run and not had to it. So I think for both of them, we've both got the same type of thing on the line. Nothing really happening in our domestic league. This is kind of the show pace. But I think we're both pretty rested. Do you know what I mean? We played quite early this week, so we'll be rested. And I do think GVB, like I say, primary focus has been this competition for a while, I think. So I think this is going to be the big last hurrah. And I think for a lot of players, there's rumours that Goldson's going at the end of the year, that Jack's going. There's a few players on that Rangers that are evidently on the conveyor belt looking for bigger jobs, and GVB wanting to make his own mark. I think it might be the final hurrah, particularly for McGregor as well in goal. That guy is one of the few players on this pitch older than me.
There you go. With this final, obviously there's massive stakes. Would you take too much solace, or maybe not solace, but would the outcome of the game, a win or a loss, affect this side and maybe the morale and the motivations of this side going into next season? Or you're not even thinking about next season just yet? But do you feel that a win could define Rangers for the next 5-10 years, whereas a loss could have that very detrimental and like demoralizing feeling about it? Or is next season in the back of your mind that you just focused on next week?
Well, I mean, I think whenever we're in a privileged position in Scotland that when Rangers or Celtic win, it motivates the other one because there's nothing we hate more than them, like them with us winning anything. So I think the motivation is already there. So I think win, lose or draw, I think for us, the motivation is already there. We've got to get that title back and bring it back home. We can't have them getting excited. So I think the window here will be a huge catalyst for next year because I think that this puts us above Celtic in the terms of we can do it in Europe as well. We are one of the better teams in Europe. Obviously, it guarantees you Champions League football as well. So, I mean, that's a big thing for us as well, that we'll get to do that as well. So I think it's a big motivator. I don't think it will have any bearing on the title next year because I think that GVB will want that title back, no doubt, as a Rangers boy himself. But I think it could be I think it's a huge thing as well for the transfers. I think when you win in Europe, it just makes that a bit more of an attractive quality. We've attracted some big names, Aaron Ramsey being one of them. There's rumours that we're sniffing around Gareth Bale. I think you win a Europa and there's golf courses in Scotland.
There you go.
Gareth Bale's in.
There you go. No brainer. So let's fast forward to next week. What would be your team talk? What would be the main message just before the lads go out to battle? What would be your this is Sparta type speech to them? What would be the main message?
Well, I think look at Walter Smith's side. The guy, unfortunately, is no longer with us, but he's a legend, an icon. He built probably one of the most faithful Rangers sides of the last 50 years. Do something he didn't do. He couldn't do. And I think it's a chance to cement yourself in history. It's a big thing. When was the last time a Scottish team won in Europe? The 60s. I think it was the Scum in the European Champions League or the European Cup as it was then. I think that's the thing. It's the chance. These names will be cemented forever. I think the title last year was a huge milestone, but I think this is a milestone that is huge. It is beyond that, and I think it's to right the wrongs. I think Walter Smith that's probably his one blot on his career. He didn't get that win. I think this is a chance here for the boys to really cement themselves in the history of football.
There you go. Now, I hesitate to ask, but your prediction for next week? I know this could change because we are recording this on the 13th, so Friday. So nearly 7 days out from the actual fact. But what's your predictions? What do you thinking the result could be?
3-1 Rangers.
Goal scorers?
Tav 2. I reckon Kent.
There you go. I would love to say go to the Peds. Just to see,
I wouldn't.
I would maybe not for your sake, but I feel like it'd be good entertainment. Maybe the Scottish can do what the English can't on bends against the Germans.
You'd fancy us with penalties. I think half of our team is a specialist penalty taker, so
there you go. So maybe
penalties would be all right. But I think we'll get the job done in normal time, and we'll be back at Ibrox by midnight.
Hopefully, is that? Maybe in your thought process behind that prediction, do you think a goal will come early for what you said that you'll come out of the blocks quickly, you'll come out high tempo, high octane style of play? Do you reckon you could get one within the first 20, first 10?
Yeah, I mean, Tav is, like I say, under the system, you've started to see Tav get into the final third just a ridiculous amount. And he opened the scoring in the semi as well, just bursted forward from nowhere and just happened to be far post and tapping. So I can see an early goal because I think that's one thing I've noticed in Europe. We have come out high intensity, trying to put a statement, get them on the back burner and let them know we can play. So I think there will be an early goal, and then I'd imagine it will open up at half time. And I think when games open up, you start with Leipzig as well. Rangers play their best football. So I'm excited, but I think there'll be a few goals in this one. I think both sides are capable of breaking the other one down and playing positive football.
There you go. So that's the preview from the resident Rangers fan in Australian YouTube anyway. But so for those who don't know who you are, I don't know why you wouldn't, but PommyInOZ on YouTube, road to 3K. Let's get him there. So any help for him would be greatly appreciated. Pommy, mate, thank you very much for joining me.
My pleasure. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, mate. Go Rangers. Come on.
Go Rangers. Go on, Mondagers.